Hello, and welcome to Gods and Monsters. In this episode, we will talk about the Norse gods, specifically the Æsir Pantheon, those who live in the realm of Asgard. In this episode, I will introduce you to the main figures of the Æsir Pantheon. This won't be an exhaustive list of all of the Æsir gods, there are far too many. So, instead, I've selected the most significant characters from amongst the Æsir, some of whom you may already be familiar with, others perhaps less so. One thing to note before we begin is that it is not uncommon to have notions of the divine being universally good, though for many of the world's faiths, and particularly the ancient ones, this is not the case. To put it simply, the gods are not universally good, because humanity is not universally good. As a result, these gods are more like reflections of us. They are self-interested, and they can be just as irresponsible, manipulative, and downright sadistic as us mortals can be. As is true in the mortal plane, power does not go hand in hand with benevolence. In fact, they often run counter to each other. Some may say that the world makes more sense this way, but in any case, I find that such gods make for more interesting tales, and ultimately, that is what Gods and Monsters is all about. Now, I mentioned in the last episode that there exists another pantheon of gods in Norse mythology, the Vanir, who dwell in Vanaheim. This is true, and I shall talk about the Vanir and name some of their gods during my episode telling the story of the great war between the Æsir and the Vanir. But that is a tale for another day. And today, I shall tell you of the gods of Asgard, for now we know how this great game began, and we know of the world in which it takes place. Let us discuss the players, the gods of the first pantheon, the Æsir. Of all of the gods that dwell in Asgard, foremost among them is Odin. Odin is the oldest and greatest of all of the gods. He is the grandson of Buri, the progenitor who was born of the ice of Ginnungagap, and it was Odin who breathed life into the first man and woman, which is why we call him Allfather. Odin is worshipped under many names in many lands. Some may know him as Grimnir, others as Woden or Hangi, Havi or Wotan. In fact, Wednesday is named after Woden, making it Odin's Day. Odin values knowledge above all things and has sacrificed much to achieve it, including his own eye. Two ravens perch upon Odin's shoulders and whisper secrets into his ears. They are named Hugin and Munin, meaning thought and memory. Hugin and Munin fly across the world and observe the goings-on in each of the realms, returning to inform Odin of what they have witnessed. Seldom does anything occur that Odin does not know about, and there are few secrets that Odin is not privy to. If any of us are fortunate enough to die a glorious death, we may well see Odin, for Odin sends his war maidens, the Valkyries, to gather the souls of those who die bravely and bear them to Valhalla, the great hall in Asgard, where they shall drink and feast and fight until the end of days, with Odin watching over them. Though Odin presides over the evening's feasting in the hall of Valhalla, he does not eat any of the meat placed before him, for it is said that the Allfather subsists on wine alone. Instead, Odin feeds the meat to his two wolves, Geri and Freki, who lay by his feet. Geri and Freki are ferocious beasts that accompany the Allfather in battle, feasting on the corpses of the fallen. Odin is known to walk among us mortals and converse with us, to see the world as we do. So if a tall, cloaked man with one eye ever chances upon you, be honest and kind to him, for that may be Odin, walking the realms in disguise. Next, there is Thor, the Thunderer, son of Odin and strongest of all of the gods. Unlike his father, Thor is a fairly straightforward being, unconcerned by knowledge and secrets, and more satisfied with combat, feasting, and tests of might. Thor is a hulking figure with a thick red beard, and is known to travel across the sky in his chariot, pulled by two goats named Tangrisnir and Tangnjoster. Thor possesses a magic belt, named Meggingjord, which serves to increase his already impressive strength when fastened around his waist. Thor also sports a pair of iron gauntlets, named Jarngreipr, though Thor's most treasured and most well-known possession is his magic hammer, named Mjolnir. Thor with Mjolnir in hand is a truly terrifying sight, and he has slain countless giants with this hammer. No matter how far Thor throws Mjolnir, it will always return to his hand when summoned. Coupled with Thor's mighty throwing arm, this is a deadly weapon indeed. Thor's mother was the giantess Jord, or Earth, one of the children of Night, that giantess that now rides across the heavens in her chariot. With the giantess Jarnsaxa, Thor sired 2 sons, named Modi and Magni. Thor's wife is named Sif, and she is a golden-haired goddess of the Æsir who bore Thor a daughter named Thrud. By a previous relationship, Sif has a son named Ullr, and Thor is his stepfather. There is no one more skilled with a bow and arrow than Ullr, and he travels on skis. Ullr is a beautiful god, and a skilled warrior, and should you ever find yourself in single combat, it is Ullr's blessing that you should seek. But let us return to Thor. Thor serves to defend both Asgard and Midgard from the threat of giants and monsters, and his wrath is a terrible thing indeed. Though Thor is a friend to mankind, and one may beseech the Thunderer for his blessings, from empowering your sword arm, to sanctifying your hall, or nourishing your crops with rain. Then there is Frigg. Frigg is a goddess of motherhood, marriage and prophecy. She is the wife of Odin, and by him she bore 2 sons, Balder and Hod. Friday is named in honour of Frigg, for it is her day. Frigg is a practitioner of Seidr magic, which gives her powers of divination and clairvoyance. Perhaps these skills are what drew Odin to her, ever in pursuit of knowledge. For though Odin has lain with many gods and giants, it is Frigg that holds the distinction of being his wife. Heimdall is the sentry of the gods, watching over the Bifrost from the cliffs of Himinbjörg. Like Thor, Heimdall is a son of Odin, though, strangely, he was born of 9 different mothers, all sisters. Heimdall is perceptive indeed. His eyes are so sharp that he can see clearly for hundreds of miles, be it the brightest of days or blackest of nights, and his hearing is so sensitive that he can hear the grass growing upon the ground, and wool growing on sheep. Heimdall stands at the ready, with his great hunting horn named Gjallarhorn by his side, though the booming call of Gjallarhorn is not a sound anyone should wish to hear, for Heimdall will sound this horn when Ragnarok is nigh, and the end times have begun. Balder is the son of Odin and Frigg, the brother of Hod, and he is beloved by all. Balder is beautiful and strong of body, and his hall, Breiðablik, is said to be the most beautiful in all of the realms. Balder is brave indeed, and sets an example that all mortal heroes should aspire to. But, alas, it is with deep sorrow that I must tell you that Balder's tale will end in tragedy, and that his thread will be cut short by deception. But that is a story for a darker day. For now, let us speak of another god. Tyr is a god of war, though do not be mistaken, Tyr is no bloody-handed killer, but a fair and honest god. He presides over matters of law and justice, as well as the affairs of the battlefield, and one should invoke the blessing of Tyr before heading into battle, and remember him when the fighting is done and treaties are drawn, for Tyr watches over such proceedings as keenly as he watches over the battles that preceded them. Tuesday bears the distinction of being Tyr's Day. Bragi and Idun are husband and wife. Bragi is a son of Odin and is a god of poetry, a skald of such skill and eloquence that Odin made him court poet in Asgard. Bragi regales the denizens of Valhalla with his poetry, stirring their warrior spirits during battle, or keeping them enthralled with his tales during the evening's great feasts. Idun is a goddess of great importance in Asgard, for she tends a grove that bears remarkable fruit. The golden apples of Idun's orchard bestow the gift of immortality unto the gods, and as long as they partake in this miraculous fruit, the gods shall never know the touch of old age, and will remain in their prime forever. Should a god feel the weight of mortality creeping up on them, their hair greying, or their joints complaining, they will go to Idun, who carries with her a box made from ash, which contains some of her golden apples. Idun will give them an apple, and upon tasting its sweet flesh, the god will find themselves instantly renewed. Strength will return to their limbs, and the grey in their hair will vanish, and it is for this reason that Idun is perhaps the most important god of all, for what are the gods without their immortality? Finally, we have Hod, poor, cursed Hod. Born of the union of Odin and Frigg alongside his brother Balder, Hod was not blessed as Balder was, and was born blind. Despite this, Hod is extremely strong, and brave like his brother, though sadly, also like his brother, Hod walks a cursed path, and his story too will end in blackest tragedy. There is one other that I should tell you of. Though he is not of the Æsir, he is counted among them, and he lives with them in Asgard. His name is Loki, and his business is that of trickery, deceit, and mischief. No one knows for sure why or how Loki came to Asgard. All that is known is that Odin considers him his blood brother, and that Loki possesses more cunning than anyone, even the Allfather. Loki is a giant. He is the son of the giantess Laufey, and his father is said to be a fierce giant indeed, named Farbauti, he who strikes dangerous blows. Perhaps such lineage is why Loki carries such a capacity for evil and cruelty within him. Perhaps his blood is tainted by Ymir's dark essence. None can say for sure, but what is known is that Loki cares not for the laws of gods, mortals, or even nature, as he is known to have sired monsters as his offspring, monsters that will find dread purpose during the end times. Now, it is natural to wonder why the Æsir tolerate Loki and his devious ways, but therein lies Loki's greatest deception, for he is handsome, likeable, and perfectly charming when he wants to be, and it is all too easy to be entranced by him. After all, he is a trickster by nature, and the best tricks are those that one would be a fool not to be duped by. And while Loki can be a nuisance, his cunning has many times delivered the gods from situations that would otherwise be impossible to navigate, though more than a few of these situations were caused by Loki in the first place. Loki is capable of altering his form, able to appear as other people or gods, and can even take the form of animals should he choose. He is also known to sport a pair of magical shoes which allow him to walk through the air. In particular, Loki and Thor share a special relationship, and their paths continuously cross, for they are at once friends and enemies, and in time I shall tell you of their amazing adventures. Though ultimately Loki's path is a dark one, and his role in the twilight of the gods will not be noble. But for now, Loki serves to make the world that bit more interesting, and his mischief is the source of many great tales that I will share with you in days to come. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you learned a thing or two about the Norse gods. The next episode is a big one, for I will tell you of how Odin came to know so much, how he learned the magic of the runes, and how he lost his eye. Until then, take care, and I hope to see you again soon.